Mike, if you want to start.
Right.
Okay. I will call to order the July meeting of the Finance and Budget Committee.
Counselor Kelly,
Here.
Counselor Moore, Counselor Barbell,
Yeah.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Counselor Brody,
Here.
Counselor McFarland.
Here.
Okay, reports from department representatives and discussion with counselors. Mr. Marks, do you have anything you'd like to present to us today?
Well, I sent out the financial statements for June and an updated projection for 2020's ending results, just projected results. If you want to look at those, we can put those up.
I would love to look at those.
Well, then I'll have to go put them up. No one told me to put them up.
No one told you to send them up?
No, was it today's email that you sent, then you said correct?
I sent the June results a couple days ago. And I sent the updated projection yesterday, and then I changed it a bit today because I found it from MLD, or not, excuse me.
So which is it, today's?
DPW, you need today.
Not to cut you off, but I need to go get.
I found it from DPW, they were doing some.
Okay, so today's.
crack sealing and some,
Well, Beth, don't just start moving because I said something out of line.
Well, it's
Is
not-
that
it's
what
not
Mike
up
wants to
there
do?
So don't,
well,
do
I
you
mean,
want to
I
report up
call,
on?
I can call it the June stuff and take a look at the projection.
I don't want to railroad Mike's.
Well, can
Did
you
you guys
just,
not get sent this?
can you just give us a narrative, today, Richard, on where we stand and where you think we need to be?
Sure. You wanna see something?
Well, you gotta, because I think, you can't be here. Okay, so this is where I have to sit, so are you coming over here? I'll just
If you
move.
want me to put some on the screen, yes.
Do you want it on the screen?
No,
Okay,
not necessary.
I'll just move if you want me to move. If you want me to do this, I just need to know.
Okay. So, in a nutshell, our results through the end of June are a lot different from June of last year. Except for property taxes, obviously, because that's a consistent animal. The collections through today for the property taxes are about $310,000 off from last year, but I think the majority of that is because we're about 9 days behind in applying our payments. So we've got to catch up on that. We had to wait to get these results out because we didn't have water and sewer and refuse billings finished until July the 8th. And that's because, we're behind on that too. Haven't sent out any bills for July yet. We'll probably get the first run of utility bills out July 20th or 21st. And we're gonna remain behind because being behind in payments creates a problem for you to be caught up for your billings. Because you can't send out bills and say people haven't paid their bills until you've applied their payments. So we've got a problem with keeping up with the volume of work in our office.
Rick, you're always on time, what's happening to make things late?
We have 2 people furloughed that are critical
Critical.
to getting things done.
And because those two people aren't in your office, it's being stretched too far and things are getting slowed down.
Correct. Plus, it's the vacation season,
Yeah,
and since things have reopened, people are taking their vacations now. We have about 20 weeks vacation for the 7 people remaining in the office to be taken from now to the end of the year. And you know how many weeks are left in the year.
yeah.
So we're gonna have a person out for vacation just about every week for the rest of the year, in addition to those 2 people that are furloughed. So
So you're gonna be behind,
we are right now.
but that, if you had extra staff, would you be?
If we had our staff back, we would be where we should be.
And if you had your staff back where you would be, money that the city takes in must generate some interest income as well.
Yeah, we're losing.
So we're losing money on top of that.
Yes.
So you're losing money because you can't bill on time, you can't bill on time because your staff is short, so you're not making as much money. And because of that, we're seeing a deficit in the budget indirectly. Because we're losing rental, income,
Well,
interest income.
at this point, that's not showing because the results for the interest loss aren't really, being posted yet. But The important thing to remember is when I first came to work here, April of 2007, the finance office was 1 month behind in applying payments. People used to come to these meetings and say, what's wrong with you guys? I send you a check today and you don't cash it for a month. And it was because they didn't have enough people to apply payments. I walked into the office and they had 3 envelope boxes stacked up. And I said, what's that? Oh, those are the payments that we received that we haven't had a chance to post to our customers' accounts and put in the bank. So once we right-sized the place, which only took place effectively 2 years ago, we finally got to the point where you get come in today in the form of cash or in the form of checks, and it gets deposited today, it gets posted today. We were consistent and timely, and we were also getting our billings out probably after the meter readings are uploaded every day within 2 days. So now we're gonna be 3 weeks behind on that, and we're effectively 10 days behind on applying payments. Now that's just gonna escalate.
And it's all because of shortage of staffing.
Yeah, we have two people furloughed that are critical. So, and the budgeting numbers that I put together for next year considered 1 person down if we didn't have walk-in business. But June 15th, we had to reopen the customer service counter. So we're back to where business was normal. Nothing's changed for us. Nothing's changed at all. The big change was gonna happen because of the virus hasn't occurred. At the beginning of the virus, we had 407 people signed up for auto pay. Since then, 4 months later, we've had 80 more. So we're at 487. At that rate, we'll get the rest of the customer accounts established for auto pay within 49 years. And I don't think we can wait that long.
So when NICEAG converted over, they all managed to do it in 6 months. Yep, gotta pay by auto pay. There's no more windows to drive up to.
So you can tell the customers for the city, you all have to get an email account and you all have to get a bank account.
So I'm sure you're not saying that the city of Plattsburgh residents are less sophisticated than every other NICEAG resident, NICEAG user across the state.
Well, I don't know that NICEAG people don't pay by check.
Well, some might mail it in, but I think your point was that we can't function well without doing business the same way we've always done it.
Well, if you can close the customer counter like NICEAG did, just say, we're closed to walk-in business, sure, that'll help. But we were told June 15th that wasn't an option.
I don't think it was quite like that, but I think
No, I
we're
had an
getting off
email
track.
if you
We're
wanna see
having
it.
a discussion on finances, and I think you're doing a presentation on the finance office.
Well, it's part of the reporting, isn't it?
If the
Not
mayor pro
really.
tem wants us to pursue this angle, certainly.
Not really, but we don't have anything else on our agenda, and we have roughly 15 minutes left, so.
Yeah, I just want to bring your attention to the fact that, we're going critical with this, and it's gonna get worse. If it continues like this, we'll be as far behind by the end of the year as we were when I first started working there in 2007. We'll be a month behind in applying payments, and probably consistently 3 to 4 weeks behind in getting bills out.
Why did you choose the 2 persons that you did, or did you? Was that a union decision, or?
The reason I traded in a deputy chamberlain position, which was a management position that wasn't really involved in transaction production, for 2 clerical people is so that I can keep up with the transactions.
So when you were asked to furlough employees,
I wasn't asked.
okay.
No, the way, I wasn't asked.
Okay, but someone made the decision that 2 of your employees were going to be furloughed,
Right.
correct?
The way this started back on April the 2nd was I was asked, what would it take in your department to save 15% against your budget? And I wrote back, and if you guys want to see all the email correspondence, I have it. I wrote back and said I would have to lay off 2 people for an entire year to save 15% against our budget. Plus, we were gonna cut some costs here and there for some other processing. And we did those. But there would be no way we'd keep up with the volume of transactions that we have unless something dramatically changed, like close the office and everybody goes electronic. So, anyway, That was perceived to be, you can afford to lay off 2 people. It's like, that's not true. It wasn't true then, not true now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Reese.
So, anyway, that's critical. Now, as far as June results, obviously, we're way ahead of last year in spending. Just for instance, in the general fund, expenditures are 9.3 this year versus 9.8 last year, so $500,000 better in expenditures. Revenue's about the same. The only fund that's losing money this year, of course, is the rec complex. They're about $59,000 down. Parking lot is pretty consistent with last year. Water and sewer consistent with last year. Not much else. Now, when you get these reports, the important things to look at are these details. Now, the analysis in this column is based on the revised budget. The revised budget is the one that we did back in the beginning of, middle of April, where we increased the budget for the general fund by $3,043,000. So when you look at the budget revision analysis here for percentage of completion for the year, you gotta remember that $3 million that's been added has been changed. It's dramatically different. There's not 61% of retirement cost increases coming this year. There isn't 10% increase coming from healthcare this year. It's actually going the other way. Healthcare is actually 10% ahead of last year. Costs are down. We had actually put in, I think, 30% for AIM, but then we moved it down to 25%. But we moved sales tax up to be 31% less than 25. So anyway, there's some changes we still have to make to the budget this year to revise some of the numbers that we agreed on. But all in all, the update that I did for the projected results are showing that we're gonna be about $600,000 down this year.
You were, what, 1.5 million?
Well, no. When we did the revised budget, we were putting ourselves at 2.8 million deficit. Now it's gonna be roughly even.
Break even?
Yeah.
Wait, but you said down 600,000.
Well, we had originally budgeted for $688,000 surplus. So it's, yeah.
So, is that counting the people that furloughed and payroll expenses, or is
That's
that?
based on the numbers as we have them right now and the current payrolls forecasted to the end of the year from right now.
That means people not coming back from furlough?
Correct.
So if we don't bring anyone back from furlough, we're looking at break even.
Based on the cost we have right now.
And if we were to bring back people from furlough or layoffs, what would that be?
I haven't looked at those numbers.
So,
I just updated the projections based on where we are.
so we're doing a lot better than was projected,
Yeah,
a lot better.
yeah.
That's great news.
That is great.
Well, the good news is there's some revenues that have come in, some increases in revenues, and of course, the expense reductions are dramatic. And I think I've got the expenses projected for the rest of the year based on credible numbers. I had to change one today because I didn't think the striping and the crack ceiling was gonna go on, but they are doing that. However, I put 138,000 back in here, and it's only gonna be about 70 from what Bissette said, so I'm gonna be a little bit high on that. So I sent this to Beth and the mayor yesterday and then adjusted it today, so that's available as well as the report for June.
Okay,
And that's an email from you?
To the mayor.
And that gets, how's it to everybody else?
I don't know. I sent it to the mayor and Beth. So I don't know what happens from there.
we get a copy. We do every month.
So, if everyone that's furloughed stays off, we're looking at break even, that's not breaking into the fund balance at all.
Right.
The fund balance is what, 2.2 million?
2261, yeah. But that's still not completely final. I gotta go over the AUD questions from the state, and we also have to final the audit. We have to look at all of what has to be adjusted there.
And what kind of revenues are, we've had property tax come in, but are we still waiting to see what AIM funding is and
We've got a 25% reduction forecasted for reduced AIM funding.
That's what's forecasted.
Right.
When will we know what is actually coming in for reduced AIM funding and sales tax?
September?
September?
Yeah. Sales taxes we'll know when they finish the next quarter. Right now, sales taxes we have booked are ahead of last year. Sales taxes through the end of May are only down 7% for Clinton County.
Really?
Through May, year to date. I haven't seen the June report I was looking for that report that you sent to me last month, and I couldn't find June's update on that. I don't know where to look for that. I went through that email that was sent to you and tried to look at the state site, but I couldn't find that same report where they had the results through the end of May, which showed May at 36% down, but year to date was only 7% down. So I wanna see what June looked like so we could see, if there was a bigger change because of June. But anyway, we'll know every quarter that they file the sales tax and say, here's the results for Plattsburgh.
Okay. And can we go back to something that Steve asked at the beginning, that kind of flew over my head a little bit? There was something about losing interest income?
Yeah. When the cash isn't in the bank, it's not earning interest.
Oh, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there could be, I don't know, maybe $300,000 in payments sitting downstairs. Cash gets put in the bank every day that we get cash. And of course, cash comes from people dropping it in the drop box or coming to the desk. That gets deposited every night. I do that. I drop by the bank and I hit it in the night deposit. But the payments that we have downstairs are a paper box lid, and the days are there that have to be applied yet.
And at the rate we're going, we're about to be a month behind at the end of the year. How long are we behind? How far are we behind now?
10 days.
And that's just because you're short-staffed.
When someone comes in and wants to do face-to-face work, it takes between 8 and 10 minutes to take care of it.
I'm usually there for 15 to 30.
Sometimes, that's true. But it takes about 8 to 10 minutes. That includes cleaning the workstation after every customer.
Yes.
So when you have a day where 20 people show up, it's 3.5 hours.
Then you said something about we could close just people coming in, close the thing.
Just shut the doors and say, we don't do walk-in business anymore. And that would save us a lot of time. On a day when you have 40 customers come in, it's a whole day's worth of work for one person. So they're not doing anything else but waiting on those customers.
Question, how do you feel about that, Rich? Do you think it's better to have people come in and have the extra staff, or are you saying, yeah, we could save the payroll and just close the doors, and how do you think your customers would feel about that?
I don't know if the complaints would be there that, people want to come in and pay in person. I know there's some people that say, I have to pay in cash because they don't have a bank account.
Yeah.
And they don't want to drop their cash in the night drop box.
Yeah.
They say the city employees will steal their money. It's not true, but I mean, they could go get a
Money order.
money order for pennies and pay the bill that way.
I see people lined up often at the post office with that.
Sure. But I mean, we've got a lot of customers that are, we have 1,200 customers on HEAP, Heating, Electrical Assistance Program. They're living in assisted living, contract housing. You talk to them about, can you do auto pay? I don't have a bank account. How about getting e-bill? I don't even have a computer. It's like I get my money in cash and I want to pay you in cash. We have a lot of people that say, I don't want e-bills, I want a bill mailed to me because I do online banking and I send that to my bank. Of course, their bank then sends us a check. Their bank won't send it to our lockbox where it can be scanned and uploaded as an electronic transaction because they don't want to do it that way. They want to mail it to us based on, here's the bill, here's the address.
So, if I'm correct in understanding what you're saying, we could solve some of our, staffing loads and keeping up with the staffing woes and keeping up with the work if we were to close the desk, but that would cause a corresponding, inconvenience for a lot of
People would get used to it, like the mayor said, NICEAG did it at one point. They said, we're closing the doors. There's no more place to pay in person. However, they have places all over town where you can pay in person.
Wait,
NICEAG does.
so I thought you just said that they can't pay in person, like,
Not at NICEAG.
not at NICEAG, but they have other places.
Right. That's correct.
We need to move on,
Okay.
so if you can wrap up.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
I want to review these numbers again, and I'd like to, get more information from the department heads and ask them about the projections, because they didn't provide projections when they did their budget. Pretty much, they ignore that part. So I want to make sure that we have good information about forecasting where we're gonna be, because I looked at this all day yesterday, and I looked at every account yesterday, and I analyzed where we were, and I analyzed how much we need to spend every time, a payroll's done, every time a bill run's done. And these are the numbers I'm getting. So I wanna verify that we're gonna be pretty much break even, and not 2.8 million on the whole.
That's unbelievably great news.
Well, with all the people that are furloughed and the depressed level of spending that's going on right now, that went on for April, May, and June, it makes sense that it is. But are things gonna ramp up? I don't know what the plans are to spend more money on whatever we're looking to do.
Well,
I found out about the crack ceiling and the striping. I didn't think they were gonna do striping. I drove home last night, it's like, wow, streets are striped already, I better put that back in the numbers. And I confirmed with Mike today that they were doing it, and he said, yeah, we'll be about 60,000 on that. But they had budgeted 138. So I put the 138 back in, probably have to adjust some back out.
So last week it was discussed, I think last week was the infrastructure meeting, unless I'm confused. And it was brought up, it was mentioned that some of the people that were furloughed have already been brought back, at least at DPW.
Yeah, 13 of them. Well, not all at DPW, 3 for MLD, 2 for water pollution control. One that was laid off was actually brought back too,
At DPW or water pollution?
DPW.
Okay. And so with those people being back, those aren't figured into your numbers, or are those figured into your?
I believe they made the first payroll in July, and those numbers were what I was doing, so they would be in the forecast, but I wanna confirm that. It's a
Okay.
good question.
And
Very
I
good
think
question.
more people are gonna be coming back from furloughs. My understanding is the library set to open on August 3rd.
This is just general fund.
Okay, so,
Library's not part of it.
so that doesn't take into effect MLD or library?
This is just general fund, that's right.
Okay.
So I gotta make sure those guys and girls that are coming back are in these numbers for the projections, because I'm looking at the current payroll levels that we generate every 2 weeks, and I'm saying, okay, extend that out 13 more periods, and that's the end of the year. And if that's the level it's gonna be, there's your number.
Now, how many people are still furloughed that haven't been brought back, you know?
10?
And but you, I think Steve asked this earlier, if those people were brought back, you don't know how that would affect the numbers for the end of the year?
I haven't looked yet, no. The 2 people in my office might be 30-some thousand for the rest of the year.
So if you brought back the 2 people in your office and no one else, let's say for this hypothetical, but we'd be at a negative 30,000 for the year, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
May we move on now, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very
All
much,
right.
Richard.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
With the few minutes we have left here, I'd just like to move the agenda items brought forward today to the regular meeting. Can I have a motion to do that, please? Motion by Councilor Moore, I'll second it. And all in favor?
I think you usually do roll call though.
Do we need to do a roll call? Okay,
Counselor Kelly,
yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Reed,
Yes.
Any old business? Any new?
I have old business. Did we
Okay.
send the county a letter yet telling them that we are protesting the reassessment of property taxes for businesses in downtown Plattsburgh yet?
You brought that up, and I just responded last week, is that we told them, we didn't send them an
I
official
want
letter.
to send them a letter. I want to be read right in the middle of the council chambers with the county's clerk and let them all know that they're the ones that are responsible. Hit them over the head.
Beth, can you help me prepare that?
Sure.
Send it along based on the resolution from the council, to make sure they have a written copy to be read into their minutes.
Okay, any new business? All right, with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn this committee meeting. Second? Yes, second?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes?
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes. Now let's begin the work session, then this will give us an opportunity to discuss in greater length any of the items on the agenda tonight. Is there anything you'd like to have further discussion on?
Yes, this item about closing the Broad Street parking lot, how will the public be notified about that?
So we've already drafted a press release to be issued immediately upon approval of the council of these resolutions. I've notified Mr. Brody as a business owner right across the street. We will put copies of that press release on the doors of all the adjacent businesses. We'll also put flyers on any cars that remain in the Durkee Street parking, not the Durkee Street, the Broad Street parking lot as of tomorrow, so people have more than enough notice to move their cars. And if anything remains on Monday morning, we'll do our best to notify those drivers before towing their vehicles.
When is the on-approval lot? Obviously, you don't need something to close down because there's not a lot, but,
Mhm.
Is that being done around the same time, before, after?
Starts on the same day, on Monday.
A question about the Broad Street parking lot.
Mhm.
Are they gonna go right up to the land barrier, or are they gonna go back a little bit from that? Or where are they gonna cut the driveway off, sort of the road off?
I would have to take a closer look at the plans, but it's all the way to the end of the lot. They are resurfacing the entire parking lot.
Does that include that section of Durkee Street, or just?
No, they're not resurfacing that section of Durkee Street. They are affixing some minor pavement markings for like bike lanes, but beyond that, there's not any physical work being done on Durkee Street.
I would imagine some signs will go up to,
Yes, and our contractor will take care of all that.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Anything else? Thank you.
Any other items you'd like to have further discussion on? Oh, and by the way, I sent you just one more sentence for that press release, by email.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other items you'd like to have further discussion on? Could you offer your various committee reports tonight, beginning with governance strategy and city operations?
We don't really have anything to add tonight.
Okay, City infrastructure, Councilor Moore?
Well, just that, Jim's doing the striking as, already come up. And, that's all I have at this time.
Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly?
We just had our meeting, Mayor.
Public safety, Councilor Gibbs, anybody, could Councilor Barbell speak to that?
I can't speak to the work that she's doing with the Citizens Committee, but, I know that she's having, further conversations around the MRAP vehicle, the armored vehicle at the police department, and has been exchanging information with Chief Ritter. And there's apparently some interest from the county sheriff's department, who currently already has one armored vehicle and is interested in obtaining a second armored vehicle. And, there may be some potential to work some deal with them to, assist. We cannot dispose of it ourselves. It has to go through a federal organization that, brought the vehicle to Plattsburgh. So the chief is, working on that. But, what we will be doing is removing an armored vehicle from the city police department in Plattsburgh.
Thank you, and, Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor McFarland?
Yes, the library began taking requests for lobby pickup of materials and tax forms, July 1st. Started out pretty slow, but in the past couple of weeks, they've actually processed over 150 requests.
Cool. And MLD Board President, Councilor McFarland?
I have no updates at this time.
Any other reports anybody like to offer at this time? If not, I guess we can take a 10-minute recess and resume at 5 o'clock for a regular meeting. Thank you.
Mayor, can I make one more heads up to council? As part of the parking lot closure on Broad Street, the NYSEG river remediation, that involves some remediation in the riverbank adjacent to the Broad Street parking lot. So that work will take place before the city's work to expand the parking lot, and based on prevailing weather conditions and water levels, NYSEG's ability to complete that work may be delayed, so they may not get us the site back for the actual parking lot work for several weeks. So I may have to come back to the council at the end of August and request an extension of the closure of this lot, just as a, put that on your radar.
How long is the lot projected to be closed again?
From July 20th to, July 19th to September 1st, so about 40 days.
It's actually pretty fast work. Of course, the question becomes, will the NYSEG get their part done?
Yeah.
Any other business? Let's resume in 8 minutes then, thank you.
Pine, Marion, Elliott Street. This must be the newest one, huh?
Yeah.
I have one of these, I got it from the city. Yeah.
Say
I-
Brody on it?
No, it says, Bridge Street, or Pond Street, and I have my old mailbox.
McFarland,
When
did
they
you sign
changed the
yours?
post office box.
Let's go.
Maybe when I choose yourself on those Broad Street items. Yeah.
They're just looking at this one.
We'll stack them.
I think we just have to, you guys have a question. See that, how you think? See that?
Yeah, that's the June report, but then this is the projection. I'm sure it's with you. I don't know if anybody gets on that information, like I said, it's not sure.
Yeah.
The emails? Here's the one that said, how about if you open up the front desk to a limited set of hours each day, if you keep it closed with, when everyone else is open, Beth and I will be fielding dozens of complaints, so that is not an option. I thought it wasn't an option, and we could keep it closed. But in the next breath, it's like, well, nice, I closed there, why don't you do the same thing? It's like, well, which do you wanna do? I'll do either, but I'm telling you, we're gonna continue to operate the way we are right now. We'll be on high volume.
We're losing money right now, aren't we?
The interest is 0.5% annually.
So, $300,000, $1 million budget, sitting there, not generating income,
Yeah, but, you know, for 10 days,
is that all it sits in there?
well, it's sitting right now for 10 days, we'll give you money back. So let's say it's $300,000 times,
$150.
it's 1,500 a year divided by 365 times 10. 41 bucks. So it's not a huge interest loss.
Still lost.
I mean, it's still a loss, sure. But, you know,
Not like it's gonna make
the worst
zero.
part is that it creates more work when you consider that customers are paying their bills and we're not applying it to their accounts, and then we have to send them another bill.
Not only that, I hate to say it, but I view the taxpayers as our customers,
Right.
and you're talking about customer dissatisfaction.
I know. And I don't think anybody realizes what our customer database is. There's a lot of indigent people, a lot of retired people, there's a lot of people that don't have computers, don't have bank accounts, don't have emails.
Patrick he just said there's 150 people that have been into the library to pick up tax forms, right? You can download them and actually fill them out on them.
In a heartbeat.
I actually have a quick question, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Jill and Lisa from City Clerk's Office and Building Inspector's Office, what funds do those two get? Is that straight down on both of them, straight?
Yes.
100%.
And, you know, the question is, well, you said, would you defer those? I never
You were
The morning
directed.
after Jason told him on a Thursday night, April 23rd,
Okay.
well, guess who's getting furloughed, you're running medicine. I didn't find out until the next day.
I didn't find out till the
That's
meeting.
the first I ever heard of it. So,
This meeting is where I found out. I didn't know ahead of time at all, not one inkling that I was happening.
so anyway.
Imagine my phone that night.
I know.
It almost exploded on its own. Between the emails and the text messages and the phone calls, it didn't even stop, the battery ran out just on notifications.
I could look at those projections again very carefully. That's this column in this report. Because, you know, the news is too good. Of course, when the news is too good, a lot of times people say, don't question it. But it's like, no, you gotta question it. It's really, really good.
You know,
It's like versus, here's the original budget, here's, you know, call it break even.
Even your
This is where
vision
we
waves
revised
spread.
it to.
Oh. Are these the new ones?
Yeah. But,
I spelled that wrong.
no, that.
No, they did, no, they did not, you're not.
yeah, well,
Oh, that's
part
really
of it
nice.
is where it started.
Oh, I see, put this in there so the wind doesn't.
Yeah, and then someone said it was gonna be a 61% increase in retirement costs this year. It's like, and then, you know, we still want,
They're all the same? No.
increase in retirement for state, state retirement for,
That
employees. It's not happening.
Those are surplus funds.
Yeah,
That's in these
to
numbers.
make sure we found something that was appropriate.
I like the way they
And
made it.
that's in the revised budget numbers here, so that's where you gotta be careful,
They would have up here.
you know.
So that's the, they
I
might
don't
have,
see it in these revised budget numbers.
You what?
Oh,
yeah.
they also might have some extras at some point, and then that we could probably hang out in City Hall.
So everybody should be
I
dancing
have
in the
the
streets.
extras of the old, Centennial.
Oh, is that like that? I'm
Now,
damn
a
sure.
couple people have wanted to buy them some.
And that's also based upon,
It's also based upon
sales tax.
Huh?
It's also based upon sales tax going a little
You
bit
charge for
lower
those.
than what we projected, right?
Well, nobody's asked for them about.
If sales tax, if our sales tax comes in this
Next
quarter
time when you
higher,
come into
then
my
our
show you.
proportionate higher.
I might have to come in soon.
Yeah, we
Oh, that's
originally
right.
said 25% down on sales tax.
I mean, I'll be doing some work.
In these revised numbers, in these revised,
Yeah, and that's for
uh, these revised numbers, I'm saying 31%.
What's it coming in?
sales tax May, June, July, right?
Yeah, I had to turn this off because last week when I was listening to the video, I hard to hear the air conditioning.
And
So
then
that's the
If we fast forward to
June, July, and August.
start to turn the heat on.
Yeah.
I'm projecting
Then all will be
Based
in
upon
Plattsburgh.
my retail sales.
We'll be back in.
The cold.
We're up without the Canadian dollar.
And we won't have such a warm winter that we had this time.
Across the board in every business and sale,
How's your family in Pennsylvania? Are they having?
you know.
Same.
Could you imagine if sales tax
Pennsylvania's
projections
been pretty good for
were
everything, right?
Comparatively, yeah.
I don't think they're.
not down where they budgeted them, I said that's it, but we're actually
I know my son
at
goes
the
back
same
to
as last year or higher.
the county says they get the majority of their sales tax from
They're
three
not,
big
you won't get to come back.
Superstore
so
sales,
You can't, there's not gonna be any public event, you know, like we won't be going there
Sam's
for
Club,
people, whatever.
all the big
They go
box.
right
And
through
they never
Thanksgiving,
close.
Auto
they'll have
sales.
any breaks, and then they'll come
They
home for
never-
Thanksgiving,
Auto
the week after,
And
they'll do all the
gasoline.
finals virtually, and then
Gas
they
is
won't
down,
have.
which is low.
Gas is down for two reasons. Prices got way depressed because of the Russians and the Arabs going at it, and then also because of usage being way, way down. So.
Yeah, the projections on like
You might wanna go,
yeah, the state one has.
or in here,
Are we factoring that?
Yeah.
you got one
We have
second.
main funding because we need to take down 25%.
Sorry.
Federal government, I know it's not determined yet, but I mean, it's.
I haven't actually saw any revenue in here, except for the $32,000 we did get. Reimbursement by the health, making moves. For the home and health services for the federal government, $32,000, just like that for something Scott called.
right now, I got PPP, so I'm, I actually opened a separate checking account. All my PPP funds and my, bridge loan money is all in one checking account, and I label everything, so I have a complete full record of it all.
Right.
And, everybody's gonna keep an individual listing of their things, supplies, expenses, and that kind of stuff. So we'll have those pieces of information. The payroll can be done, but the fire department's.
Which is fine, I feel it's hard to do. I couldn't help it.
That would make sense.
Well, I mean, it's gonna look tough to put on read or something that says, $500,000
Yeah.
for your payroll. It's like, I don't wanna stand behind that report and say that, we had to spend that much money through our firemen picking up COVID patients. It's like somebody else can look at that report after that.
I'm actually, for safety purposes, I'm imagining like even all the departments, like probably go out on the street, either front lines, so you gotta have all the protective.
Well,
gear.
you also have, and there's probably put into that report, the expense for fuel, because what we had to do with the social distancing and putting on different vehicles, throughout the entire city, throughout the whole pandemic, basically. And that's gotta
Sure, there you go.
and some things that would normally be 3 guys in one truck ended up being 3 guys in 3 trucks. So you triple your.
That's true.
One more quick question. Yep. Health insurance, straight out of general fund, doesn't matter who it is, or just some general, just some option. What insurance that's got, that's doing your. Straight to the fund.
General fund is got everything.
No, every insurance. Who would be, who is not the?
I'm not sure There'd be 7 of your guys on a work. No, the usual charge is water. 7 of your guys are usual sewer.
Okay, so wherever it's split up, like, it would still be, if I'm 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, so I would have 1/3 out of the general fund for my health insurance.
There's
as well.
one thing that requires a 3-year renewal. Yes, that's 9 years. Because the other ones, based on a person retired, whether they were charged and whether.
So in the same situation, like two, you're missing from your, they're inside, their general fund, they're only 27%. And also pay a portion of their healthcare too. It's completely divided. We'll let it back.
Hey, Mike, is Jeff out there? Oh, Jeff, right, I'm sorry. We're ready to start then? Let's please begin tonight's meeting of the Common Council with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Councilor Barbell?
Here.
Councilor Kelly?
Here.
Councilor Dietz? Councilor Brody?
Here.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Here.
Just a couple of quick comments. A few quick comments. First of all, Beth did check, and yes, we did send the resolution up to Mike Zerlo and the county, and apparently they haven't acted on it anyway, but next time I see Mr. Zerlo, Mr. Brody, I'll ask him whatever happened to that. A nice distinction for the city of Plattsburgh, and it was reported that we're one of the 3 most transparent cities in the entire state of New York. I actually compared our city with the other cities on that list. And I think this wasn't just cities and municipalities, also it's counties, etc. So it's quite a distinction. But on that list, the other jurisdictions that also ranked incredibly high for transparency and open meetings haven't maintained the same level of open meetings that we've maintained throughout the COVID crisis. Don't maintain the same level of open meeting of YouTube and recorded presentations that we do. And as a matter of fact, just for the point of comparison, some of you go back a little ways and remember even 5 years ago that it wasn't quite as open as it is now. For comparison's sake, in June of 2015, there were published on the internet meetings or recorded, or I don't think they're doing meetings live like we do now then. but the total amount of meetings in the month of June of 2015 was 1 hour and 55 minutes per common council. Now we publish them all, and it's 6 hours and 16 minutes of meetings for the month of June last month. So, and that's a factor of 3 of additional meetings that are all open, recorded, broadcast to the public. No city or municipality in the state matches that record. So thank you all for being so willing to put so much into all this and to be able to do so in such a transparent manner that I think is absolutely the pride of the state of New York. Now, one other issue, I think I raised the issue earlier about increasing vandalism in the city of late in the last 6 months or so, including vandalism on City Hall, a number of city businesses, McDonough Monument graffiti, Trinity Park bench graffiti, Smithweed Bridge graffiti, and recently some vandalism graffiti in Durkee Street. I'm going to pass you around the sheet of the total cost for all these actions. It's totaling somewhere, just for the purposes of your numbers, an average around $400 each time we have one of these vandalisms. So somewhere around $1,600 vandalism. It's really started to occur much more lately in the last 6 months. I can't think of in the previous 3 years any of these instances. So they're really starting to crop up now. And it is starting to cost taxpayers a significant amount of money, at especially a time when we're really struggling financially to preserve jobs and all that sort of stuff. So it's sad, but we do our best to remove them as quickly as possible anyway, but it isn't without cost. And it's usually DPW and ASME that's taking care of these problems as they arise, and usually get to them within a day or two. So I thank you all for that work. And I think that's all I have then for tonight. Thank you. Please continue.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on July 9th, 2020 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Barbell, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending July 15th, 2020 in the amount of $450,523.05 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Moore. See his arm sticking out there. And second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You've already offered your reports. Are there any additional reports you'd like to offer at this time? Seeing none, resolve the reports as listed are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Barbell, second by Councilor Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passed. No correspondences or recommendations from boards at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending July 17th, 2020 in the amount of $707,579.21 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Moore and second by Councilor Brody. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Are there any individuals who'd like to please address the council on any items on the agenda tonight? There will be another public comment period right at the end of the meeting for general comments. Seeing none, please continue.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council approves Luck Brothers, Inc. to close the Broad Street parking lot from Sunday, July 19th, 2020 through Tuesday, September 1st, 2020 to complete improvements related to the city's downtown revitalization initiative.
Moved by Councilor Barbell, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion. Roll call?
Councilor Barbell?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Brody?
I was recommended to excuse myself.
As a
Councilor
downtown
McFarland?
business person?
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council further authorizes the city police by towing any vehicles found in the Broad Street parking lot during the period of closure.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Barbell. Discussion?
Yes, Mayor, during the work session, I made the point of asking, how are we gonna notify the public about this? I'm concerned that with this work beginning on Monday morning, that we wanna make sure that people don't park there and don't see some notices or something, so I wanna be reassured that some signs go up to tell the public that come Monday morning, they shouldn't park there. Is that gonna happen maybe tomorrow, Matt, or sometime over the weekend?
Luck Brothers was planning on putting out signage on Monday morning, but if you think we should put something out there before, I could speak to DPW, although it is a bit of a quick turnaround.
At least flyers on windows, I think.
Yeah,
That would
now
be really
flyers
good.
on windshields, absolutely.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But the
that-
physical
that-
signage, like setting up, that might be a little more difficult.
And Matt's putting out a press release momentarily as soon as you approve of this.
Right,
So-
I heard that, and I think that's great, but somebody invariably is gonna miss that.
Yeah, of
So-
course.
You know, it seems like it's a lot of people at DSS that parks over at that, park.
Yes, and I've reached out to, county staff and asked them to, reach out to not just all DSS employees, but all county staff, inform them of closure and directing them to other city
Okay.
lots.
Will they be putting like sawhorses to kind of block entrance into that parking lot so you can't get in anyway?
Yes.
Or- okay.
Yeah, they'll be putting barrels up.
Could they sequence their work so they're concentrating on one parking lot and then go to the next parking lot so the first parking lot can use this, so people can alternate between which one they use?
We asked about that, but based on the way the projects were bid out, it was bid out as a single job, and to save money, our contractor, when dealing with their subcontractors, only ordered a single mobilization. So they will come in and do both lots, either striping or milling at the same time, so we can't break it up and do one all and then.
Gotcha, yeah.
And the second lot is the Arnie Pavone
Correct.
Memorial Parking Plaza, right?
Yep.
Okay, now, are you comfortable that the city has adequate parking for this period of time that this parking lot will be unavailable?
Yep, absolutely. The parking counts that Ethan conducted last year showed that even at peak usage, there are over 250 open public parking spaces within the special assessment district. And the full capacity of the Broad Street lot is 59 spaces.
Oh, okay.
So we've got more than enough to spare.
And then, of course, when the Arnie Pavone parking lot comes online, that will be additional space.
Yep, that'll be another 103 spaces.
Something to talk about in the near future.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Question, how because we have, let's say, on a Wednesday and on a Thursday, we have about between 50 and 75 cars that'll come in through that day. How are they gonna be able to turn around and pull out? Are they gonna have to back up into the city roads? Or is there, it's just, I'm worried about how are people gonna egress?
So you're talking about large vehicles with trailers?
You're gonna have vehicles with trailers, you're gonna have cars, a lot of cars, because we're doing a lot on the internet right now.
Mm-hmm.
And my concern is, you get 5, 6 people in there, in the mornings, you're gonna find 5, 6 cars there. I'm trying to envision, how are they gonna be able, is there gonna be turnaround room for them at least, or is there?
Yeah, so the footprint of the street itself will still be available, which is more than enough space for a normal sized vehicle to turn around. If we're
Right.
talking about a large vehicle with a trailer, that might be a little more of a complex operation, but they will have the footprint of the road to work with. And I imagine if something needs to go up onto the sidewalk in order to make a turn possible.
Well, I'm more just worried that in the mornings, you have all your buyers show up and they wait in their cars as one goes in, one comes out, and we let one group in at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That you may have 6 or 7 cars, just regular cars parked, waiting to get in for their turn. And I'm just worried about how they're gonna be able to turn their car around and get out.
I can speak to Luck Brothers about that tomorrow.
That's why I was asking about that other side of the grassy area, so they could drive in and go out in a semi-circle rather than, I don't know. I can just see all these little old ladies backing up their cars into each other.
No, I hear what you're saying, it is a concern, but I can speak to Luck Brothers about that tomorrow,
Okay.
see if, there's any accommodations that they can make, but of course, you know,
Yeah.
traffic control is part of their responsibility, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
they should have a lot of fun.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Barbell?
Yeah.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Brody?
I have to abstain due to being downtown business.
Counselor McFarland?
Yeah, sure.
Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves that the regular common council meeting scheduled for Thursday, July 23rd, 2020 will be changed to Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020, beginning at 5 p.m. The Public Safety Committee meeting will begin at 4:15 p.m.
Moved by Counselor Barbell and second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion. Roll call?
Counselor Barbell?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Brody?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
No travel requests at this time. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Any new business or additional council reports? Looks like you might have some new business there for us, the signs.
Yeah, so we have this just out here just to show you, we got some sample, the banners that are gonna be placed in the downtown. So we're still waiting on some more of a welcome to historic downtown banners, so what, we're working with NLD and they're being nice enough to fit us in their, usual work schedule. What they're gonna do is, at the key intersection entering the downtown district, they'll put the welcome to the historic downtown banners. They will then work on replacing the existing Adirondack Coast banners, and where banners have been hung, with the 6 different variations.
Could you do your Vanna White thing there? Could you
Oh,
both?
yeah. So, check this out. And then, so it's English and French, of course, you guys saw that and you approved them. And then once they're done replacing the existing ones, Banner Group has also ordered additional ones to be put in locations that do not currently have banners, such as leading down towards the marina and the harbor side area, for example.
Can you show us them all while you're there? If they're different ones anyway.
You can come over by the microphone because the public can't see
Okay.
to do your banner.
And what kind of frequency will they be on the poles?
So we're working with MLD because they also had some issues because in the wintertime they place up the holiday decorations, so they don't want to disturb that routine. That's if something in the future the council wants to change how they structure those, then we can move forward that way. So this is, which camera is looking at me? This one? So this is the ship. We have a salmon one. Once again, all these were decided through public input that Banner Group conducted, and they all have historical representation. We have a salmon. If you know the Clinton County, salmon has played an important role in the history of Clinton County. It's actually on the seal for Clinton County.
And the reason is, Saranac River at one time, before it was all dammed up, was so rich with salmon that the saying was that you could actually walk across the river during spawning season just through the thickness of the salmon. This used to be one of the most significant salmon routes in the country until the Imperial Dam and others went up.
We have McDonough, you might recognize this. This is actually an interpretation of the mural we actually have in City Hall. We have the McDonough Monument, of course, one of the key landmarks for Plattsburgh. You have a scarf, so one of the things that took the banners a while is before they could all be ready, the Banner Group worked with the chief and to come up with an appropriate representation of the Native American history of this area, and so we're working with this. This scarf represents the 7 nations of Canada.
So that was done in conjunction with the First Nations, the American Indian
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it's something that they could, was deemed acceptable, and they could celebrate the history without any issues that we see with other interpretations. And something that this is more of like one of the public-led ones, but it's really just celebrating the food and the food industry of Plattsburgh. So
And they'd be like every second signpost?
Yeah, there'll be, where the existing banners are, the existing
Amount?
mounts are. Some of the banners were blown off in the past. One of the things that we went with were, you see that they have these wind slits, which will help prevent them from sailing out, which could either cause damage to the existing MLB poles or also cause these to blow away. So we're hoping for some more durability and, better protect the city resources there. But yeah, so they'll go there, pretty frequently in the downtown district and down towards Harborside, and essentially the whole DRI footprint.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thank you. And what about the corner signs? Could you show us those too?
Once again, so you guys saw a rough idea, a rough version of these in their presentation when they came to approve. So this is one of the more historic looking street signs in the downtown.
So that one's actually a former sign, but they're modeling the new ones after the
Exactly.
historic sign.
Yep, and so most of the DOT regulations, you see signs like these in the downtown and across the city. So the lettering has to be a certain size. The sign itself has to be a certain size and width. There's certain restrictions on the borders, the background colors and all that, if you want to be DOT approved. And since this is using grant funding, you need to follow state regulations. And so this is a sample sign that was delivered. And so DPW currently has all the 101 signs that will go in the downtown and the DRI footprint. I think they have to order some new brackets for upload, from putting them in, but that's something that they're, once again, working on. I know they said they're putting that into the workflow, and hopefully, those get put up soon. So we're thankful for their work as well.
It's very attractive.
So,
And I think you're putting up a dozen or 2 dozen historic signs at the same
Yeah.
time.
So some of those existing, so outside you see those blue and yellow smaller historical signs. DPW has 10 of those that they're gonna also try to work in the workflow to place at different various historical locations. And we're also working with the Platco to finish that up and order the remaining 9 signs to be put up. Those will be working with a interactive map that Borbiner Group is forming for the downtown, the DRI district, which is gonna have, trails, the murals, these historical locations, and, restaurants, retail, all the different services to kind of help promote, and give visitors kind of a better tool than just Google. Because Google doesn't really tell you where's the historical sites, like what is the historic meaning of this building or all of that. So they're working on that kind of like a tour guide kind of interactive website. There's a very basic draft version. It's actually uploaded on, it's on the city website now. If you went to the front page of the city on the bottom of the page, there's the blue buttons, and one says Visit Historic Downtown. You can click on that, and most of the time the link works. When they're working on it, it currently doesn't. That goes to just a draft interactive website that they have, that they're still working on and finalizing. They're adding more information, more details, but it's coming along nice, and it fits in obviously with this general historic theme.
So people with geocoding, people could take their smartphone and walk around the downtown, get to a certain location that you've already got some data on. They can look on their smartphone and find out some of the background history on that location, everything I think you're working on.
Yep, and that's something that we're working on as well. So when you go and you look now, they show the 52 different historical sites, both in the downtown. They also expand a little bit, so they also along the barracks. So if individuals went on the new, recently repaved Terry Gordon bike path, went to the Oval, they could find out, hey, what this building is, what that building is. Also it locates a couple of historical locations closer towards the beach as well. So this is just a start of what they're working on. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Any questions? Good work.
Is it also gonna have retail locations and
Yes,
restaurants?
retail and restaurants are already uploaded, so they have pictures, descriptions, and actually on the map itself will have links to their website or Facebook, depending on what's
Sweet.
available.
Nice
Yeah.
job.
So that'll hopefully be a nice boost once tourism's more, hopefully in the future, when we find a solution to this and reopening, that can go and be a good boost for the downtown. So.
Thank you.
And wasn't there something along the lines of like signage on storefronts and stuff like that?
Yes, so there's some draft projecting signs, and just general sign guidelines that they actually have a draft pamphlet for. I'm working on some, to allow the projecting signs would require a zoning code change. So I have some language of that that I'm working on right now to hopefully pass forward to send to the council for your guys' consideration. So.
I think that Councilman McFarland and others are very interested in revising of our zoning and codes, and Councilor Schneller's been working on that. What kind of timeline are you looking at for a revision that would allow us to incorporate these sorts of things into kind of all one stop?
I know Milena would be much better at explaining that. She's leading that project, but it seems that, so from my interpretations, and Matt might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, that right now Saratoga Associates, who's working on both the finalizing the LRAP and the code updates, right now they're wrapping up the LRAP, and then they'll focus on the code. So we're still talking as a whole package, and as they pick out specific locations where they want to do more overhaul of the code.
Probably around a year.
But I thought they were talking about that, they're not gonna focus on the code revisions, they're gonna only focus on code revisions that are required for the LRAP, and, right?
And other issues that the city finds with their code as an update.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, it depends largely on how long grant money holds out. We don't have enough to do a complete zoning code rewrite or a complete comp plan rewrite. So we have to pick our spots. Certainly, the updates are gonna focus on things that are needed to affect completion of a lot of the LRAP projects, but we do think there's gonna be, some money left over to touch on some of the other areas of the code that could do with some work.
And so the question would be if the city if council would rather consider this projecting sign code changes separate, or just wait as a whole package with the Saratoga Associates work. So that's something that we could have further discussions with the mayor about, and then obviously the council when it gets brought up.
Any further questions? Thank you. Nice presentation. Any other new business or council reports?
Oh, yes, speaking of that, there was she brought up the facts of the city hall bike lanes being closed off through barriers. And my understanding is that, it may not have been approved by anyone, she was having, problems with it, so I'm wondering, where we are with that. And if it wasn't approved, maybe we should move the barriers back to out of the bike lane. The other thing, I wanted to bring up is I made that resolution, to allow the mayor's office to obviously make, changes to add parking spots and to do the bike lanes if that's what you thought. But there's no sunset provision on that, and I'm wondering, we must be in phase 4 now, is that correct?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the current regulations are on restaurants, but I'm curious if they still need that resolution at all. Should we keep it in for a little bit? Should we get rid of it, or should we put a sunset provision on that resolution?
There was something from the chamber. There are some new regulations regarding bars and restaurants, but I don't think it was a significant relaxation of anything. We did, when you asked me to do that, we put out an email to everybody who has parklets, who had restaurants downtown, even if they didn't have parklets, and asked them to please come and approach our office, and so we can sit down and discuss whether we widen or lengthen their spots, as we all discussed here, and nobody actually reached out to us. So, any guidance you want to offer, I certainly would take at heart. Mind you, by the time anything was done, it would already be August, and they're gonna be bringing their parklets in September, so. But it's ultimately a common council decision.
Well, I would say if no one reached out, said that they needed the bike lanes, then.
Well, wasn't that what Carol was here from Iris's?
That's right.
And she was very distraught. She had originally wanted the entire street closed off.
Sure.
And then we thought, well, maybe one way. And then she went from there to saying, well, give me enough to be able to fit an extra deuce in. which is a cedar for two, so that's when the bike lane came in, rather than closing off the street or making it one way, the extra 2 feet for the bike lane came in. It should have probably a sunset clause in it as well, but I think that could be geared towards capacity and timing. I imagine we're hopefully heading towards a phase 5.
Well, but there was no decision on the bike lanes here. We gave the mayor permission to talk with people, figure out the best ways. And my understanding is perhaps even adding parklets, you know, but, from what I'm gathering from, you know, Melina and the mayor was that shutting down the bike lanes wasn't actually authorized by anyone.
Wasn't negotiated through my
No.
office, no.
So, if that's the case, then maybe we should have those discussions with them, and I'm not saying we should decide it here, obviously, it's with the mayor's office, but if there was no authority to close down the bike lanes, then perhaps those discussions should be had, or take away the bike lanes.
I think the longer thing with regard to sunset, I think by next year, first of all, we don't know what the new normal is gonna look like, but
Sure.
regardless, I think you all need to make a policy, more fleshed out policy description on parklets, because I see it's kind of running the full gamut. At one time, it was clearly understood that only certain barriers were allowed. And that kind of got relaxed, and now it's relaxed so much that there is just cement blocks being put in. The street is apparently adequate, so, and I think a lot of you have been going back and forth on designs elsewhere and everything. And our planner is recommending really thoroughly thinking what you all want to do and what you define as a parklet. And just once and for all deal with this issue, because the new normal is one thing, but also parklets aren't going away. There's gonna be continual interest in it every year for legitimate reasons. And you all need to probably take a close look at that policy.
I'd like to see some kind of regulations about appearance. You know, have some minimum standards for appearance, such as, you know, potted plants, or, you know, we can discuss the details of that, but some of them are very, very attractive and some aren't, and I'd like to see us come up with some standards.
I agree, and I think our planners also, and others are concerned about the safety aspect too. Some of them are quite safe and some of them aren't so much, so.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I'd like our planner to go over those kinds of things, so clearly she has some opinions on them, and,
Yeah.
perhaps, make some changes.
Yeah.
We also got some feedback from our insurance carrier about the process that we're following, and they were concerned about once you have established bike lanes, if you then block those, do you have proper signage to regulate the traffic in the bike lanes or around the obstacle? I don't think we put signs up anywhere, so they're very concerned about that.
So I would say, take the barriers out of the bike lanes, and then if the restaurants wanna come talk to you, you still have the authority
To spread them
to
out.
make those, to make
Laterally.
whatever decisions are best for the circumstances brought forth. You know, not every individual business or thing, you know, I don't want every business coming into the council to make those decisions, we gave you that permission. So I would say take the barriers out of the bike lanes, and then have those conversations with the restaurants. And if you decided best for the bike lanes and with the insurance carriers and stuff like that, then you have the authority to make those decisions. But if you think it best for the parking, to get more parking spots or something like that, then that's what I would say.
Their other main concern was, are the barriers strong enough, heavy enough to withstand a 30-mile-an-hour impact? Because the streets are 30 miles an hour, speed limit, so 30 to 35. If someone hits one of those directly and tips it, you know, can it crush a customer? Can it withstand an impact?
Yeah.
So that was their two main concerns, and I think I forwarded that to you too, Dean, and you, the mayor, when I got the response on that last week.
And BBW brought up that concern specifically with part of closing off streets and stuff like that, can we make lanes? Cause
Yeah.
Steve had a great idea when I heard it, of like, why don't we make one lane? But the barriers then need to be pretty adequate for that, and if there's an insurance issue, then that should certainly be addressed.
Another thing that you might consider too is move the speed limit in some of those areas from 30 to 20 miles an hour, although there's a problem with.
I talked to
With
Melina
that,
about
but-
that about a year ago, because I wanted downtown changed, and apparently you can't do that unless you get
Unless the
special
schools
legislation
allow it,
from the New York
Right.
state, because city speed limits are 30 miles per hour. Only school limits can be, only school speed zones can be 20 miles per hour.
But if we could do traffic calming to, in essence, slow it down, the kinetic energy by going from 30 to 20 miles an hour is less than half, so you create another 60% margin of safety by slowing people down just a little bit, and it might be worth doing through more, there's a type of removable speed bump that they can take out, because it causes problems with the plows in the winter. The permanent speed bump, but you can do removable speed bumps at various crossings, crosswalks, and all that kind of stuff.
Or even just an inner city traffic speed.
Well, see, but
It's permitted, yeah.
that's controlled by New York State. We can't change the 30 mile per hour speed limit anywhere.
Really?
Because, yeah, I went and talked to Melina about, a while ago about making downtown 20 miles per hour, because as the mayor said, there's multiple studies that 20 miles per hour is so much safer. You have a much higher chance of surviving an accident if you're going 20 miles per hour than 30 miles per hour. But that requires there's a lot of things that require special legislation from the state.
Like a curb tax.
Curb tax is one of them, there's a lot of them.
I would agree with Patrick, that I think we ought to be moving those barriers out of the bike lane and moving them back to where we originally had them. And I just think it's the safety issue that, I saw the memo that you sent and from the insurance company. And I think it's a legitimate concern that all of a sudden you come to a spot and you may have to move out and there's traffic there. I think it's a real safety issue, and I would be in favor of notifying the restaurants that had them in the bike lane that we're going to be moving them back to the original position that we had them last year.
But it'll permit them presumably to extend laterally.
Right,
rather than-
I agree that they'll be able to come in and look at expanding that way. But
I'm hearing that you're instructing me to do so, and
I would appreciate you contacting the restaurants, let them know about it, and that, I assume, I don't know, I don't want to assume that everybody on the council agrees with, removing them from the bike lane. So, you want a resolution, I'll make a resolution, or let Patrick do it since he brought this up, to remove the,
I don't think a resolution is required. He has the authority to do it.
okay, then great. I would say go ahead.
okay, well, Beth and I will get that conversation going. I think it actually only affects a couple of restaurants. So.
Yeah.
If those restaurants want to speak to you and speak to Melina about other options, or if Melina has some concern, I know she has some concerns about that, and if they can alleviate her concerns, then by all means, do it again if that's what everyone decides is best, but.
Yeah, the cost of DPW.
There will be a cost to do that.
There will be.
Yeah.
Incurs
Yeah.
Okay,
He's going to incur that cost.
thanks.
Mayor, just briefly, Melina is out on vacation until next Friday, I believe,
Okay.
so.
Any other new business or council reports? Any closing comments from the public on any issue?
Good evening, everybody. Just a little, most of you don't know me. My name's Jason Keeble. I'm a 20-year employee for the city of Plattsburgh. I'm also the AFSCME union president. I'm here tonight basically to express my concern about the laid off and the furloughed employees that we still have. We fully understand the hardships that everybody's facing during difficult times, and I just want to let you know that the potential employee cuts that are on the table in the future here, obviously it hasn't been discussed yet, we feel are going to be more detrimental than helpful to the city. I currently have 7 employees that are furloughed at the moment. I have one in the city clerk's office. I have 2, which Rich talked about earlier, in the finance department. I have another in the building inspector's office. I have 2 at DPW, and I have 1 at police department. I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown because there's a couple of them I'm still trying to figure out exactly why they're furloughed and not back yet. I'm gonna start with the 2 at DPW. Connor Filion is, he's a draftsperson at DPW, and his pay is basically split between the water and sewer department to include his benefits. So he's not coming out of the general fund. Neil Rabideau is a water meter maintainer, and he is paid 100% through the water fund with his benefits as well. So those don't really impact your general fund at all. And one that I'm really baffled by is Tory Prince. She's a parking enforcement officer at PD. Basically, Tory, with the tickets that she writes, pays her entire salary. She pays for all of her benefits, and she brings revenue to the city. While at the beginning of the pandemic, I can kind of understand that we, had a lot of parking spaces available, but now that everything's open and stuff, I'm kind of wondering why she's sitting at home and not bringing in revenue when we're looking for revenue. I think that's kind of it's a head scratcher for me. The two typists at Finance Department, Aaron Rabideau and Sandra Montefusco, basically they do come some out of general fund, and talking to Rich, it's only 27%. The rest of it is billed through MLD, and there's also through water and sewer, different things that they process the bills through them, and so they're kind of split amongst the funds. The typist in the city clerk's office, Jill Bore, and the senior clerk in the building inspector's office, Lisa Beebe, they're 100% out of the general fund. I'll start with Joe's office, the building inspector's office. She's the only clerical person in there. Personal experience, I applied for a building permit back in April, very beginning of April. My check was cashed 2 days later, but I still don't have my building permit. I don't know how that's going to be able to keep going and be substantial and or sustaining, moving forward without having anybody processing the paperwork and sending out, what would be considered revenue for you as well with the permits. The city clerk's office only has one other union member in there, basically doing all the work. She has X amount of time for vacation and stuff like that too. There's a lot of work in that office, and it's my understanding that, when she's off, basically, Sylvia is basically doing her work as well as the union work. And then when she has her lunch break, she actually has to close the office, which is probably a hit in revenue as well. My last point really is going to just be, DPW's been covering a lot of other work as far as the rec department's been closed. We're now maintaining the ball fields now that some of that sort of stuff has been open for baseball and soccer. DPW is covering that work, which means we are putting aside some of the other work that we have to do to include mowing. We have 3 people right now that are mowing 550 acres of city property. Actually, I believe it's more than that. They're not really doing any trimming. They're not really able to do the meticulous portions of maintaining the parks and that sort of stuff. Normally we have 6 to 8. While a lot of those are, I'll say we usually get laborers that are temporaries for the summer. I've been asked multiple times for laborers to come in on a temporary basis to do mowing. Unfortunately, that is kind of against the rules, and I can't allow that because we still have 3 laborers that are on a permanent layoff. Those employees need to be called back to do this work before we can hire temporaries. I mean, those are just the rules. I don't know what I would really do if we hired temporaries and then I had to answer the phones of those people saying, hey, what's going on? You hire temporaries and we have full-time people that are laid off.
Isn't that called a scab worker?
I would probably get beheaded at that point. And we also have one field maintenance worker who basically goes around and maintains all of the baseball fields throughout the city. Public Works has basically picked up that load as well. But the problem with it is while we've renovated all of these fields and we made them playable initially, the continuous play, the continuous games and all of those sort of things make the ball fields to where they need to be conditioned. We have a conditioner basically that goes around and keeps the clay level and stuff like that. So that work's not getting done either. All in all, I really don't see how the city can function. We need each and every one of these people back. All of these departments, as Rich touched on earlier, they're all short-staffed. They've been short-staffed for a while. This isn't anything new. And these cuts make us even more short-staffed. I don't see where much of this is coming out of the general fund. And to be honest with you, I don't see how the taxpayers deserve to lose services or to continue with the slow or delayed service that we are providing because of the layoffs and furloughs. It's not a lot of people, it's not a lot of money. I appreciate those of you who have thought out of the box a little bit and tried to find other sources of revenue or other ways to, and I will give props to Mr. Beebe with the curb fee thing. I think that's something that really needs to be explored. You know, when you have over a third of the city that is not paying tax but is receiving all the services that the city has to offer through our labor and through our workers, I think that something like that should really be looked at hard. And you know, maybe there's something else we can do except for, you know, making our employees suffer as well as the taxpayer services. If anybody has any questions, I'd be willing to.
I have a question, but I guess it's probably towards, no. Of the people that are projected not to return, are any of these people those people? I mean, if we're trying to save the general fund money, it doesn't do any good to let somebody go that's, if I understood right, you said that Connor Filion and Neil Rapidu
Correct.
were water and sewer?
Connor, the drafts person is half water, half sewer. Neil Rabideau, the meter maintainer, is strictly out of the water fund benefits and all. And like I said, Tory Prince, I really don't see how you can't ask her to come back to work tomorrow and start writing tickets. I mean, it's money that you're losing out on,
That's your meter.
as well as an employee that's sitting home doing nothing.
That's your parking meter.
Right.
She's also a code enforcement officer now for code violations, I believe.
So it would be silly, I'm just trying to find out if those names are tentatively on the budget or somewhere that shouldn't be, maybe not employed, or are not asked to return, but if their money for their pay is coming out of water and sewer or other departments and doesn't affect the general fund, then how can we project the general fund debt? Or think that we're gonna reduce our debt by furloughing those people? It doesn't make any sense because they are from different departments in the general fund, is that correct?
Correct. The council also, a while back, I don't know the exact date, you guys passed a resolution basically that allowed the mayor to enter negotiations with the unions to come up with cost savings and different ideas that we could potentially do in order to, you know, help this situation. We had that meeting last Friday. I don't know how secret those negotiations are supposed to be, but I would think that the council would want to know and understand what we were faced with. Basically, my only two options, well, I had three. I'll give you the positive one. The positive one was there was an incentive on the city's end to find people, and when I say find people, it was directly related to City Hall and the 4 City Hall positions. Basically, I had to find somebody that was old enough to retire, which means 55 by New York State. They had to have close enough years to want to get their health insurance, maybe say 18 or 19 years, and the city was willing to give the incentive to potentially give the extra time in order for them to get their health care, but that would mean that they would have to retire. Also meaning that depending on how many years, it would obviously have to be less than 20, they would be taking the ding on their overall retirement benefit. I didn't have anybody that was even close to that. My only other two options were every employee across the city contract was gonna have to take a furlough day every pay period, which is, our pay periods are bi-weekly, so that projects to be a 10% pay cut. And the other option was a 10% pay cut across the board for everybody in the union, and that would last until the end of 2021, according to the city's labor attorney. Our union hasn't had a contract in 2 years. We haven't had a 10% raise over the last 10 to 11 years with our contract negotiations. We are the least, and not to point the fingers at other unions, because this has nothing to do with it, but we are the least paid amongst the union. should have been a fireman, should have been a cop, should have been an MLD worker, whatever, you could say that, and that's fine. But I simply don't have the people that can afford that type of pay cut or that type of situation in their life. It would mean putting houses up for sale or potentially not providing for their families. So none of those are options for my group, unfortunately. It's pretty much all I got. Anyone else with a question? Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jason.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilor Barbell, second by Councilor Kelly. Roll call, please.
Councilor Barbell?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Brody?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yeah.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.